I would like to welcome, please give a round of applause to Vang. And I'm just going to add this real quickly too. Some of you, I had a question about, well, B is not Cambodian.
I'm not very Cambodian now.
Yes, he's not very Cambodian, but they say, well, he's not Cambodian. Why is he the opening remarks speaker at a Cambodian film festival? Which is true, but the thing is, what we're missing is representation. You know, the Asian representation in cinema, and our stories and our faces on the big screen. And we looked at B at, not just our neighbor in Hmong, the Hmong community. We look at him as a brother of the Asian community. So that's why we selected him to do that. And plus, his body of work speaks for itself. So without me speaking more, I'm going to hand it to you, B. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. It's a privilege to deliver this year's opening remarks to the 7th Cambodia Town Film Festival. I want to thank the staff and organizers, everyone whose dedicated efforts went into planning the festival and ensuring its continued success. And to everyone here, thank you for coming to witness this phenomenal outpouring of creative work. I want to thank Prach Ly, one of the festival's founders and directors, for inviting me to be a part of this. Our brotherhood began some 10 years ago in Stockton, as he mentioned. I was invited by the city and the University of the Pacific to also deliver opening remarks at an event named after a film I had been a part of. The real Gran Torino story, Stockton's secret war on the streets. It was a symposium that took place just months after the wide release of Clint Eastwood's Gran Torino in 2008. The film had offered a Hollywood take on Southeast Asian street gangs and thus became the event's vehicle for addressing excessive violence among Stockton's Southeast Asian American communities. Prach, if I remember correctly, sat next to me. We had barely introduced ourselves to each other before I went up to speak. The event was powerful. It was a community speaking to itself on its terms, much like today. I was only 16 at the time, and I was just beginning to grasp the powerful sway popular culture had in our society. But if any of us were still unsure of this then the era of Trump has lifted the veil. We now confront the influence of our media and entertainment on our real-world politics, just as we now also reckon with the political nature of our pop culture. Art is no longer so easily tucked away. As collateral damage of the US-French Indochina Wars, we witnessed those wars redefine Hollywood's cinematic oeuvre, just as we also witnessed catastrophic horrors inflicted upon us by US interventionism and military policy. And long after this, the crisis erupted on a new global stage and inaugurated our diaspora across the Pacific. In relation to what's happening in the Middle East today, this process repeats itself. This is the power of our media, our art, our pop culture, to ignore the past, the regrettable missteps, and drum up American nationalism again and again in times of conflict, just as it had during the wars in Indochina and after. But this inexorable power is not immutable. It can change. Those of us who know the US-French Indochina Wars know that it was a time that unbridled the demon in mankind's soul. It was truly a historic cauldron of violence, leaving indelible memories that quiver in the world's imagination, all realized by the world's agents of evil: Pol Pot, Nguyen Tia, Khieu Samphan, the Khmer Rouge, Richard Nixon, and Henry Kissinger. And in the democratic Kampuchea, the millions who died gave this unholy episode the name by which it is known: the Cambodian killing fields, an icon of humanity's penchant for brutality. Cambodia, like most of Southeast Asia, Laos, and Vietnam today, is the spawn of these statesmen, their ideological tribalism, and their cruel instinct to play the wolf to man. For sure, our collective histories were brought into globalization's fold by way of US military hubris, But when we tell it, ours is the story not only of misery, but also of coming of age, of our Americanism, of our rootlessness. That story, for me as Hmong American, began with the secret war in Laos. The real Gran Torino event at the University of the Pacific in Stockton was another. And today is yet another. But chew on this too. Remember the battle between Chick-fil-A and Popeyes? Well, I came across this meme on social media with two images. One of Crazy Rich Asians and the other of Gran Torino. Crazy Rich Asians was Chick-fil-A and Gran Torino was Popeyes. So Gran Torino is to what Popeyes is to Chick-fil-A. I laughed at first because it was funny, but then it hit me. The meme captured it so well. How Southeast here into the Asian American imaginary. We are like it. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? So we are likened to Popeyes, effectively ghettoized by Crazy Rich Asians to Chick-fil-A, because, as you know, we are not model minorities, only an exception. We do not embody the modernity and wealth of China's global rise. We are what weighs heavily on the national psyche of the U.S. as its deportees, relentlessly extruded from this country that willfully forgot its war crimes in Asia. Because this is the same country that made us disposable. Because we aren't white. Because we aren't Asian either. Not the right kind of Asian, at least. And so we don't have to fight Asian American stereotypes because we already fight so hard to be even recognizable as Asian American. It is in this Crazy Rich Asians moment then that it falls to us to declare our place as Southeast Asian Americans in pop culture. After all, it was a Southeast Asian American actor, a Cambodian American, who won an Academy Award in 1985 for his performance of Dith Pran in The Killing Fields. His name was Dr. Hang S. Moore, and I grew up watching him. I grew up listening to Sensi Samut and reading the searing words of Wong Long's autobiography, First They Killed My Father. And they all look not too much unlike me. For sure, we aren't just troubled minorities dying in another secret war on America's streets. And sometimes, just sometimes, when we create, we receive the highest prizes in this new land. We are artists, storytellers. We remember. We are talent, and we are brilliant. This weekend is a display of that brilliance. Hollywood once brokered our memories, but now we ourselves conjure up the grisly record of the past, not just to aestheticize it through what is apparent and visible, but also because we recognize representation as more than just about what can be made into a spectacle. And so we hold the mirror up to our traumas that have become history's ghoulish companion. Our pasts and presents are filled with loss, and yet mixed in with all that is the love, rage, and passion of untold dreams, awakening us to a new world. So we never forget, we never stop doing, through words, through the cinematic form, through our faces, our voices, touch, and visions for the future, the raw materials of our existence. The artist may be a category that we have too often been denied access to, but we won't relinquish the power of our stories, because our stories and ourselves are never unmoored, and they have led us to this moment. Between nothingness and infinity, we create, and in so doing, we are. Again, I extend gratitude for your joining us today. Please enjoy the lovingly curated film screening this weekend. Up next is One Cambodian Family, please, for my pleasure. Thank you.
Hold on. So before you go, we have an appreciation plaque for you. Thank you with your contribution to the Cambodia Town Film Festival.